Okay, so this is another week of indoor and arena football craziness. We had some things happen. We had pretty much everything solidified for the IFL playoffs. TAL is a little bit more wonky, kinda in a way, at the moment, but we'll talk about that, when we get there. First things first, let's talk about the big thing for the NAL, which is Big Rez, Joshua Reznalo, resigning from Wheeling. He said he just could not make the commitment to Wheeling anymore, which is very understandable. He's out in North Carolina and everything like that. It's a lot closer and stuff like that. It's a lot closer for him in general, than going to Wheeling, each and every week, which I totally understand, and Coach Rez put a lot of effort into this team, and he is one of the big voices of the NAL trying to beat their chest as a major player in this industry. And he did a fantastic job. I think I may have talked to him maybe once or he probably even zero times, and I probably don't remember. And I do remember asking, trying to get him on, trying to get him on this channel at some point. But I don't remember if I talked to Rez at all. I probably didn't, Yeah, I probably didn't. But, one of the best in the game to ever do it, and, hopefully, another opportunity opens up that's closer to him, because really I think that's what his big issue was, it's just not, not feasible for him to be going, all the way to Wheeling, from North Carolina. And the NAL in general, it's been kind of quiet for a little bit at the moment. Been quite quiet, aside from that. Again, the AL2 championship is this weekend, Jersey and Mississippi. It's on pay-per-view, of course. But, and I'm like, why is this on pay-per-view? You are not that type of league, but all right, whatever. It is what it is with that. So, I didn't include it in the ticker because I didn't feel like doing it, but I do remember this coming up yesterday, and I'm like, wait a minute, why is this on? Why is this pay-per-view only? What are we doing here? What are we doing here? You were commanding top billing for pay-per-view is crazy, but all right. Anyway, TAL again, things are getting a little bit more clear. Eau Claire, of course, lost to Iowa 60-35. They were outscored 44-0 in the second half. Eau Claire had a lead, squandered it, had a lead again, and then got outscored the rest of the way by Iowa. Now Iowa moves in a pretty good position. Hot Springs separates themselves from St. Joe's by beating them by 4. And, now, Eau Claire is not going to make the playoffs. Let's just keep that 100%, the worst team in the league. And now Eau Claire, Hot Springs, St. Joe's, Ozarks, and Duluth, are basically battling again, for those 4 playoff spots. And really, it's all up to St. Joe's, if they can, do what they need to do, and that is win what they need to win, Ozarks and Duluth will face off next week in a big matchup, which basically will determine the number 1 seed, in the TAL playoffs, which will be a 14 playoff yet again this year. IFL, Massachusetts got blown out by Green Bay and squandered their chance at a playoff spot, so it is what it is there. Yes, Fishers won against San Diego, which is crazy. Tulsa beat Jacksonville, but because Massachusetts, decided to implode, Jacksonville is in, Green Bay is in, Quad City is in, beating Iowa only 7, though. That is crazy. Bay Area, of course, beat the brakes off of Tucson, and then Vegas beat Naz because Northern Arizona is terrible. So, the playoff picture is essentially set. There is going to be just a few things to kind of get off the chest here, and at this time of the year, the Quad City Steelers could be the number 1 seed, but They got to beat Tulsa next week. Green Bay, what they got to do is, they got the number 2 seed right now, but they could get the 1 if Quad City loses to Tulsa. And again, Tulsa could be the 3 seed, but they got to win, and Jacksonville has to lose. And then Jacksonville, either can get the 3 with a win and the Tulsa loss. So, again, thought things were a little bit murky heading up into the final week, but I guess not. And in the West, Bay Area, 1 seed. Arizona, 2 seed. San Diego, they could be the 3 with a win over Arizona. If not, they are the 4. And Vegas, they got to win, and San Diego has to lose. So we'll find out if things happen the way that they happen. We'll find. We'll find if things have to, happen. I don't know. I don't know, but as you can tell, it's that time of year. If you're a degenerate gambler, there's definitely some good stuff for you. You got a lot of overs and stuff like that, hitting. And I'm just trying to pad out time because, again, it's that time of year, and that's why. That is kind of why I said, hey, we're gonna kind of lighten things up a little bit, kind of free up some space, and make a little bit less. Because again, there's just not a lot happening at this point in the season. There's playoffs are basically here, and we're ready for playoff football, trying to get things geared up for next season. Again, all these NAL expansion potentially teams, basically nothing right now. Like Pueblo, nothing. Nothing at the moment. Amarillo's already been announced. Beaumont could go anywhere at this point. AF1 back to the NAL. I don't know, but you see how short this is, and you see how good things are. We're gonna see, what those Tulsa Oilers can do. We're gonna see what Jacksonville did. We're gonna see what Quad City can do. Green Bay. We're gonna see what those 4 Eastern teams could do. Arizona, San Diego, Bay Area, and Vegas out west in the IFL. It's gonna be one hell of a playoffs. Cannot wait. Well, we'll talk about everything that happened from IFL Week 19 and TAL Week 9 next Tuesday, of course, and then we'll wrap things up basically, and talk about the playoffs in late August. So that's how I'm gonna do it this year. I'm not gonna. You see how short the video is, it's just like, I don't think there's gonna be some crazy business that's gonna make these videos any longer. So I'm gonna get out all y'all's hair, and I'm gonna see y'all, next Monday to talk the AUSL Championship, because it's happening. The Athletes Unlimited Softball League Championship is happening next weekend, and it's gonna be beautiful. Or rather, this upcoming weekend, but it's gonna be beautiful. And then we'll talk about IFL and TAL playoffs, next week and everything like that. So enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the football that is to come. Saturday football and a Sunday night ender to wrap things up for this year. So, I'm out.